So, I have a pitch for a startup. We're gonna make software that lets employees, automate themselves out of their jobs. And we're going to sell it to companies. It's basically free money. You know why? Because we're literally following in the footsteps of giants. Tech unicorns like UiPath. 11 billion. Blue Prism. 1.5 billion. Automation Anywhere. 7.3 billion. Now I know what you're all thinking. Enterprise software is hard. We need developers, we need marketing, we need venture capital. Yeah, not really. In this video, I'm going to demystify the process. Get ready to witness the magic of duct tape, drag and drop, and dependency hell. Let's get started. Anyone else remember RuneScape? The game where you farm mobs all day? Think of RPA as the RuneScape bot you downloaded to grind gold while you sleep, only to wake up one day to an account ban. Well, that's just what my friend told me. I'm totally legit, by the way. Anywho, the only difference is that now we're botting workplace applications. And you don't even need to worry about getting banned. The worst that can happen is getting fired. Since when did bots come to be known as RPA? You might think some software vendor came up with this term, but turns out it was actually just one guy. Meet Phil.
It's amazing how fast and rapidly this market has kicked off. We founded in 2010. We introduced RPA to the industry in 2012.
Did you guys catch that? He coined the term RPA in 2012. That's 10 years after Blue Prism, the first RPA software company, was founded.
We launched our blueprints, which are our famous reports which compare performances of software and services.
Guys like Phil are the true rock stars of the RPA industry. They're the ones that teach CEOs and CTOs how to think. Kind of like Ja Rule. They're the ones we gonna pay. Collaborate with to see our RPA software is the true market leader.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Phil. Alright, so we learned enough about RPA to be a subject matter expert. Now we're cooking. At this point, a typical startup would start researching the latest technologies like cross-platform, cloud-native, serverless, container. Yeah, we're not a typical startup. We're a billion-dollar startup. That means we don't waste our precious resources on useless stuff. Think about who our customers are. Office workers, right? And you know what they use on their workstations? Windows, of course. But what about the 1% that use Linux? Well, if they can't even afford Windows, why would they pay for our software? Speaking of money, we need to hire a bunch of developers to build our stuff, right? In fact, most of what we need is already built into Windows in these little doodads called .NET libraries.
This is library.
No, not that sort of library. Those libraries aren't for book nerds. Instead, they contain pre-written code so we don't need to write our own. Let's check out this one over here called the Microsoft UI Automation Library. Provides programmatic access to most user interface elements on the desktop, blah blah blah, and to manipulate the UI. Wow, that one's a banger! But as amazing as this is, we're still missing some key ingredients for RPA soup. For this, we gotta go shopping. Metaphorically, of course. We're gonna download some open source libraries from NuGet. Open source, meaning free. Alright, let's add this PDF thing to the cart and this Excel thing too. Heck, may as well get everything. You never know what people might need. Now you might be thinking, let me just kick back and relax and wait for the money to roll in. Nuh-uh, stop right there. Let me learn you something. It's often said that business acumen is more important than technical skills. Some people think that if they build something amazing, then VCs will be lining up to invest. That's a lie. In fact, we need to do the opposite. Let's go through the feature list of those libraries that we, acquired for free. Cross out everything except for the bare minimum. Less is more. Be ruthless. Why, you may ask? Ugh, my sweet summer child. If we released all the functionality now, where are the snazzy new features that we need to upsell later? VCs are bedazzled by our forecasts of recurring revenue and lifetime value. They're blowing up our phones. They're already valuing us at billions of dollars. Now, we just gotta turn our vaporware into an actual product. To do this, we need to get our hands dirty. Grab a roll of duct tape and go to town. Really get it up in there so nothing falls off. That would be embarrassing. No expenses spared. If you haven't reached Dante's 10th circle of dependency hell by this point, then are you really even trying? Wait, hold up. We missed the most important thing. As humans, we're programmed to favor looks over functionality. Why waste time making it work good when it just needs to look good? Yup, we need to create a slick user interface that looks fun and easy to use. Something that will convince laymen like you and I that we don't even need to know how to code. Some beautiful demos of dragging and dropping boxes around should do the trick. Voila! A masterpiece of automation. Sheer magic. Now, before you race off to Upwork to bid for UX freelancers, I'm going to show you something that's gonna blow your mind. Ready? Microsoft already came up with this idea over 15 years ago. What, you don't believe me? Well, check out this amazing thing called Windows Workflow Foundation that came bundled with .NET Framework since 2006. Looks familiar, right? But this was originally designed for real programmers. Surely we need to update the user experience for non-coders. Yeah, not really. Low code is still code after all. We can use the designer to draw our flowcharts and state machines, the activity panel to drag and drop our boxes around, the variable designer to create arguments manually, project panels to view our files and dependencies, debugging panels to track variables and output. In fact, all of this is made up of the same XAML code. Well, that was easier than expected. But there is actually one change we need to make. Yup, you guessed it. We need to remove functionality so we have something to upsell later. So what are we going to remove? Everything seems essential, but hang on. Why do we have a code editor in a low-code tool? Better get rid of that before we scare away all the customers. But you know what? We're going to add it back as coded workflows in a couple of years, once users start complaining that low-code isn't flexible enough. But what about the elephant in the room? Windows Workflow Foundation hasn't been supported or updated since 2012. Who cares? Let's worry about that after we get rich. We're almost there, and the result is breathtaking, not only on the outside, but on the inside too. It's what dreams are made of. Wake up, this is the real world. There's gonna be haters out there. People that call themselves real devs or pro code. You know those smug, nerdy, smarty pants that scripted this in 3 lines of Python without even using our software? We gotta fight the coding establishment. We gotta stand up for the little guy. For that, we're gonna need champions. A lot of champions. Spend that money that you saved earlier on some voiceovers and video editors instead. Because what we need now is a course. A 100-hour course disguised as a tutorial for a drag and drop design tool. But in reality, it does so much more. It's a sales pitch, a religious experience, a Bible of low code, a way of life. It needs to give people the absolute conviction that this bunch of spaghetti is vastly superior to just a few lines of code. So we have our libraries, we have our drag and drop interface, we have our champions. It's time for launch day. The software is flying off the shelf. Everyone's talking about RPA. Companies are throwing money at us. We charge them by the bot, by the process, by the user, by the hour, by the year. Doesn't really matter. We're swimming in cash. We lock them into long-term contracts knowing full well that they'd have to lose all their RPA projects, all of their hard work, if they wanted to change vendors anyway. Yep, they're happy customers for life. But people are ungrateful. They always want more. Yeah, we may have told them RPA was intelligent automation, but turns out there's a catch. You see, RPA is not really that smart. It follows predefined rules and struggles with complex logic, exceptions, and environment changes. It can't really learn from mistakes, understand our nuances, or do anything that requires creativity. In other words, it's dumb as a rock. So how do we make RPA smarter? Well, we don't. We just add layers of complexity and confusion on top. Call it some super hype buzzword like AI-powered business automation platform or whatever. Claim that we can integrate RPA with AI, machine learning, natural language processing, computer vision, or whatever the flavor of the month is for the right price. If you've been paying attention so far, you'll know exactly where to go. Yep, back to good old NuGet. And that's how we create a billion-dollar automation software company in a nutshell. Easy peasy, right? But seriously, don't do any of this. This is not how we should build software or run a business. This is not how we should treat our users. This is not how we should contribute to the world of technology or automation. If we want to create a successful automation software company, we need to do better, understand the pain points of our users, develop solutions that are reliable, scalable, and secure, be honest about our capabilities and limitations, and most importantly, have a vision that goes beyond making money. That's how we create a billion-dollar automation software company that we can be proud of. That's how we create a legacy that we can leave behind. In the meantime, there's always UiPath.
Good stuff.
Now, low-code tools like this often get a bad rap in the software engineering community. But did you know that a lot of people have actually learned to code by using them at work? Check out this video to find out how you can use automation software to land a better job. I'll see you there.